Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack and Zach are back again tonight, and we are super excited to have one of our OG original guests back on the podcast tonight. Our friend Amy Cooper, as we knew her on the mission, now Amy Taylor. Now, Amy reached out to me, like some of those that have been on the podcast earlier, and wanted to come back on and share a little bit more that's come back as we've gone through this. So, Amy, so for reference, if you missed her podcast, it was episode 5. Go back, listen to what she's up to now, her kids, all the things that are going on. But she wants to go back and just kind of reminisce. So, Amy, I'll just turn the time over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, so to start out with, like my first episode, I was just kind of running through my companions and my areas, and wasn't really like going into each one and talking about like experiences with each companion or what I learned from each of my companions.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized when I listened to Sister Kenny and Sister Robert's episode that that I didn't do that, and that like I'm sure that as people listen to it, like my companions or other missionaries, they're like, "Oh, she like didn't even talk about me." Does she even remember me? Right. And so I was like, I think it's probably a good idea for me to go back and share some of those stories and some things that I really loved about my mission and about the people that I met on my mission. And as I was thinking about, what to say, and as memories have come back, and some people shared memories that I was in and I completely forgot about, and we'll get there. But I thought about like even like with every companion, I learned something, even if it was hard. And even if we didn't get along sometimes, I still learned something, and I still value the time that I spent with them. And I hope they value the time with me. But like I think we discount like how much we really learn from the hard experiences and the people that we have to actually work to get along with and work to work with. And I think that that's one of the things that I have heard other people talk about on their podcasts, and I've really and I talk about with other people about my mission, is that was learning how to get along with people that didn't already know me and love me was like it was just part of the mission. And I think that we don't really think about that when we're going on our mission. We're like, yes, I'm going to Scotland, it's going to be amazing, or wherever in the world. But we don't think about like that we're going into a situation where people don't know us, they have no background of us, and they don't love us like our family loves us.
Yeah.
So we get out there and they're like, "You're weird."
So true.
It is. So, yeah. So like, and I've thought really a lot about this because I want to go through each of my companions. But I think I want to start with Sister Georgieva. She was my last companion.
Okay.
And because it was really hard. We had a really hard time. And I don't really want to end on that note. Like, I want to end on the happiness of like the end, but like talk about the hard things first. And so Sister Georgieva is from Bulgaria. And I think that there was a lot of cultural differences that came into play. And also just like personality and the way that we just worked or didn't work together. And there was some really super frustrating moments and some really funny moments actually. But like one time we got in a fight and we're really upset at each other, and we're going back and forth, and finally I was done. I was like, I'm not yelling talking about this anymore. The spirit's not here. I'm gone. So I left and I went in another room and shut the door. Well, she thought that I had left, like left the apartment. So she grabs the phone and the key and locks me in the apartment and goes outside because she thinks I've gone outside and like ran away.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so where would I go? I don't have the phone and I don't have a key to the house. So where would I have gone? Anyway, so she leaves me and I'm in the apartment. It's a second story flat and I can see out on the street. And she's like walking back and forth. And I'm like banging on the window. I'm like, Sister Georgieva, Sister Georgieva. And she couldn't hear me. She finally comes back in and is like, I thought you left me. And I was like, I will never leave you. It doesn't matter how bad it gets. I will never leave you alone. Like that's beyond what I'm going to do. And so that was really funny, but we had some really rough times and it made it so that like when I was ready to go home, I was ready to go home.
Yeah.
And I really think back on like the time that I was with her and what it may have looked like to other missionaries like looking at us and like because they knew me before and then they
Right.
knew me with Sister Georgieva and they're like, Sister Cooper is broken.
Oh no.
Like I really worry that some of the missionaries that I served with at the end were probably really worried about me and my mental health because I was just making it through. I was just I wasn't counting down the days, but I was just making it through. And it's like every day it was like I can do today. That was it. Like I didn't live for like next week. It was like I can make it through this day. And that was really hard. And I think that as like a missionary, it was a good experience because it really took me to the edge. It took me to the edge of my patience. It took me to the edge of my pride. It took me to the edge of sanity. I was like, it was rough. There were, and as Sister Frederick, I mean, Brother Frederick, President, sorry, President Frederick. President Fredericks was great. Like, I called him multiple times and was like, this is what's going on. How would you like me to handle this? If I can handle this. And so he was good. He listened to me and was, you know, and he understood the situation that I was in, and he was really great. But the APs, they had no idea what to do. Like they're like, good
Do you
luck.
want, do you want to call them out for the not giving you anything?
I'm trying to think. I know Elder Hout was one of them.
Sorry, Travis.
Can you remember? Oh, I should know this.
Was it
Who
Elder
did he serve
DeBold?
with as AP? Was it Rolo?
It was either Rolo or DeBold, probably. I don't remember.
It was DePold. It was DePold. At that time, it was DePold. And yeah, they were like, "Good luck." And I was like, "You guys, you have no idea." And I'm sure that they were like, "I yep, you can do this. You can do this. You're almost there. You can do this," you know, but yeah. So, uh I have no hard feelings towards Sister Georgieva. If I met her, I would hug her and it would be okay. But yeah, it was a rough 6 weeks. And it was definitely one of those moments where you're like, oh, why am I doing why what do you want me to learn? Just
Hmm.
show me what you want me to learn so we can learn it and be done. And and he did, and it was great because I came home and there were things that I learned that I needed to know from her experience. So it was great. Like, but yeah, those last 6 weeks, people were like, I don't know where Sister Cooper went, but that is not her. It was probably really hard to watch. But all right, so
Remind
now
us remind us what area you were in at that point.
Dunfermline.
Dunfermline. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's nice though that you can have those experiences and leave them there. They don't come with you, so
yeah,
you just
yeah,
learn from it, and
and
it's past.
yeah. So as I was listening to Elder Hardy's episode, oh my goodness, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. But one of the things I loved about his episode was that it is what it is. Like, there's no point in like sugarcoating some things if you learned from it. Like, you learn something, and if you don't tell the whole story, people don't get the what you learned. And so I really liked the transparency. I don't know if his companion appreciated it, but I sure did. I thought, like, I was like, "Oh, Elder Hardy, yep." Like, that's how it is. There's some times where you're just like, I know you put me here, Heavenly Father, but what I'm supposed to learn, I have no idea. So I appreciated that. Red. It was good.
It was a good episode. Man,
Yeah.
I laughed the
So
whole time too, and I was
yeah,
in the conversation.
I know. I know. I don't think I've heard so many "geez Louises" out of you from that, but that episode, that one took the cake. I was like, "Oh my goodness, you
Well,
guys!"
like you said, he did not sugarcoat it. It was exactly, and that's his personality. I mean, I got to serve around him and with him for a few weeks in my mission. That's just who he is, you know.
Yeah,
That's why he's hardcore Hardy.
yeah.
So I
And I'm
loved it.
trying to remember. He was in one of my zones. Was it with? I think he was when he was with Peacock. Maybe not. Peacock was in the zone. I remember that because I remember the zone meeting, and that was the one where Peacock was teaching us purl and knit. He had a whole like bit on where he was talking about this sweet old lady that taught him how to knit, and he's like, sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes you just got to keep on purling and knitting and purling and knitting. I was like, oh, Peacock, I'm glad you know how to knit. That's great. Good job. It was hilarious though. I loved it. It was so much fun. But yeah, Elder Hardy was in that zone with me, so I got to know him there. But
Nice.
yeah,
Love that.
so my goal is to say as many people's names as I can, and like I'm sure you guys have a tally, and maybe I'll win.
I'm writing them down. So
Oh, good. Well, so let's see. I think if I go to Sister Samus, then she is my trainer, and I love Lauren. I love Samus. She is the best. So one of the things that uh, so we served in Edinburgh together, and President and Sister Greens, they lost me. I went to the wrong train station,
that's
and
right. I remember that.
And so, so by the time they found me, they were like, "Oh, Sister Cooper, oh my goodness, we lost you." And I was all by myself. And so they were like scared that I was scared. And I was just like standing there on the platform, like, there should be someone here to meet me. I'm sure of it. So
Oh, man.
they finally found me. And I think President Greens gave me a great big hug. And the elders were like, "Oh, okay." And I'm 5'1", and President Reigns is how tall is he? Six.
He's
Oh,
like
he's
5'18".
6.
Yeah, he's at least 6'2". And
Oh, he's tall.
so
He's taller. I think he's about as tall as me, and I'm 6'5". So I mean, he
yeah,
had to have been somewhere in that ballpark.
yeah. So it was kind of like hugging a midget, I'm sure. And then um, so they found me, and Sister Samus wasn't there yet, so I got to stay in the mission home overnight, waiting for her. And then we had to stay another day because of some reason. I can't remember why. But like the transfers were coming together and the other sisters weren't out of the flat yet. So we were whitewashing into Edinburgh.
Hmm.
And I think that stressed her out big time. We were whitewashing, so she didn't know anyone. And then she was training, so she didn't know me, and then she was in Edinburgh, so it was like the magnifying glass was like on her. It was like, how good you gonna do, Sister Samus? And I think that really stressed her out. And I think that like she was 3 months from leaving, so she was almost done. And I think that she thought that she had dodged the bullet, that she didn't have to train. And when she found out that she was training, I think she was like, I I really like where I am. I like air. I like Sister. I think it was McLean, and I think that we pulled her out of her sweet little spot that she wanted to stay for the rest of her mission. So she was a little bitter about that. And she was tired. She was so tired, but she didn't want to give me a tired missionary um training, So she was really gung ho and like walking my little legs off. She just was going here, going there, and she's a lot taller than me, and she was going so fast. My calves would just like be so tight at the end of the day. And I was like, "Can we slow down?" Nope, we are going somewhere. And I was like, "Okay, we're going somewhere." But yeah, like it was fun. But one of the things I wrote down is that she sat me down and she said, "So what expectations do you have of me?"
Wow.
And I was like, what I wanted to say was like to be nice. I didn't. I was like, I don't have any expectations of you. I don't even know you and I've never been a missionary before. Like, what do you want me to say? And she's like, you have to have expectations. Everyone has expectations in a relationship. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe have faith that, I want to be a missionary and I want to be here. And she's like, that's not an expectation. I was like, okay. So I was like, I don't know. You tell me what you think I should say. And anyway, so I think what really was is she had a lot of expectations of herself and what a trainer should be. And eventually, I think I turned that around and I was like, I think you're fighting with yourself, not with me. Like, I'm just here. Like, you just put me with people. I'll teach them. I'll bear testimony. I'll love them. Like, that's what we're doing, right? And she was like, being a missionary was so much more than that, I think is what she said, but I can't remember. But eventually, she was like, okay, we can do this. And so she calmed down a little bit and I came up a little bit and she I remember her sitting me down with a map and saying, "That's our area. Pray about where we're supposed to go." And I was like, "Wait a minute. This is a companionship. We are supposed to pray and we are supposed to receive revelation." And she's like, "No." Or I think she either said, I know where we're supposed to go. You just have to get the right answer. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not even fair. Like, what the heck?
No pressure.
No pressure is right. And I was like, so I sat there and I stared at the map for a good 5 minutes and I felt it out. And I was like, okay, I feel like we should go to this area, but I'm not getting a street. Will you pray with me over these 4 streets? And she was like, yeah, I'll do that. I was like, okay, whatever. So we made it there and we loved each other by the time I got sent away, which was only 6 weeks later, so we were only together 6 weeks. But I think like, yeah, she just came to realize that like I was already committed. There was no needing to convince me to be a missionary. I was already committed to be there and to do whatever needed to be done. But could we just walk slower? That's all. Like, could we not run everywhere we go? And so we figured it out. But like, yeah, the first few weeks were a bit rough. Oh, and she was coming from Highland. Well, that's where she's from. I'm coming from another part in Utah. And she just kept saying, oh my goodness, your accent is just horrible. I can't even listen to you. It's so horrible. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
Thanks a lot. Like,
That's messed up.
I'm like, what would you like me to talk like? Because this is how I talk, right? So that was fun. And it was like so like for me, it was like, you're from Utah too. Like just because you've been here for a year and 3 months. Yeah.
Clearly nobody told her that she talked funny when she got to Scotland.
Yeah. Or she just didn't realize how annoying it was. Sorry, Jack.
Valley girl accent that she
Yeah.
had. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then she kept saying, "I can't be bothered." And of course, in Scotland, "I can't be bothered" means like, "Oh, I just don't want to do that thing," right? And
Yeah.
to me, "I can't be bothered" means like, I don't care. Like, I don't even care about. And I was like, "You can't be bothered?" Like, and it was about things like that I thought were important, like talking to more people, or I can't even remember, but she would say it and I was so offended. I was like, "You can't be bothered? What the heck?" So yeah, there was a lot of communication things just because she'd been out for a year and a half and I was just coming, and I think there was a lot of assumptions that we were both from Utah and it was going to be fine. But we were very different on a lot of levels. So
Hmm.
but it was great. And we had lunch together after I got home from my mission, and she was like, "I was so proudful. I hope you can forgive me." And I was like, "Absolutely. Totally God. Like, don't even worry about it." But yeah. So like, yeah, it was fun though. Like eventually we came together. It was great. And then so I was only with her for 6 weeks, and I don't remember who her next companion was. She said, but I can't remember now. But I went to Sister Malin in Aberdeen, and um, it was probably like night and day, like just the way that Sister Samus worked and the way Sister Malin worked. They both worked hard, but it was just different, just completely different. And I remember Sister Malin was awesome. Like she was really easygoing and just like, "This is what we do. We don't have to like get upset about it or anything. It's just this is what we do. We're missionaries. We're going, you know." And but so Elder Hout and Elder White were in Aberdeen with us, and Elder Hout was the district leader, and Elder White was a post AP. So he was finishing out his mission with Elder Hout, and that was the district. Me, Malin, Hout, and White. Like I
Wow.
found that in my in my journal, and I was like, "Wow, no wonder." Like that makes so much more sense now because I was like, "Why do I only remember meetings with like the four of us?" And we would have them at like McDonald's, and I can't remember the other place. They had ice cream. That's what I remember. Um,
So it was basically a double date.
yeah, it felt like it. No, not really. Like we were missionaries and we were good, but
I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
but yeah, it was like very like, so they picked me up from the train station and we go to this place, and they're like, "We're having a meeting because we're going to talk to the ward mission leader in about an hour." And so we're having this meeting, eating ice cream in some shop place. I don't even remember where it was. And Elder White looks at me and he says, "So, Sister Cooper, what do you think about that?" And I was like, "I have been here for like a total of 15 minutes, and you want me to tell you what I think about whatever you were just talking about? Like, I have no opinion whatsoever. I haven't even been here. I don't know what you want from me." Anyway, but he was dead serious and he wanted an answer. And I was like, "Sorry, I'm not going, no, not feeling anything." I said, "If the spirit tells me something, I'll let you know." He didn't like that answer. And yeah, I it was really funny because I had been in Edinburgh with Sister Samus, who was very headstrong and had opinions. And in one of my things I said, "I've been sick I think, and Sister Samus thinks it's allergies, and it must be because she's right about everything.
Oh, wow.
So, like, then I get to Aberdeen, and there's Elder White, who is also a very strong personality and thinks he's right about everything, and which I love about both of them because it's just their personalities, and they learn, as they've gone through their lives. And so yeah, Elder White, we got on each other's nerves quite a bit. I was too opinionated and like had ideas about the ways things should be done. And he was also opinionated. And there was one time we went to a it might have been the ward mission leader's house, and we were doing service in the form of helping him put up a play set for his children in the backyard. And he got it in a kit, and it was not a small play set. It was pretty big. And so they're all looking at it, staring at it, like, what should we do? And I'm like, is really? Like, there's instructions. Like, you pull the instructions out and you read what you do first and second and see all these baggies full of bolts and stuff. This is what we do. You follow the instructions. And they were all looking at me like, who are you? I'm like, my dad does construction. Like, I helped him build my house. Like, you follow the instructions or it won't work, especially if it's in a kit, guys. And Elder White looks at me straight faced and he says, your husband is going to have to be a very patient man.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was a lot of years ago. And I still remember that, Elder White. Still remember it. And I don't know if my husband's a very patient man, but he tries.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we need to get Simon on.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because I would love to hear what it was like from his point of view. Love it.
You've now reminded him, so he has all the reason. That's amazing.
Yes. And we did have fun together though. We had district meeting on not the beach, but like we could see the beach and we weren't on the sand. We were on like the grass that was like, oh, I don't know,
Adjacent to the sand.
Away from the beach. And yeah, like, and I remember him and Hout and Malin would bring their guitars, and at least once they sat and guitar jammed, and I think we sung a little bit, but not loads, but just visited and talked about what we were doing in the area and stuff. But yeah, Elder Hout and I got along pretty good compared to Elder White and I. And yeah, so that was fun. I really I feel like I learned what it was like to be a missionary and be myself in Aberdeen. Because for a long time you're being a missionary, but you're not really being you. And I think when you fall into that, you're like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like. And yeah, so that was fun. While we were in Aberdeen, we knocked on the door of a guy named, I'm pretty sure it's Greg. Let me get the picture. I have his conversion story, the Elder Howe gave me. Because he wrote it and said, here, give this to all of the missionaries that helped find me. Yeah, Greg Sinclair. So Greg lived in the like the college, some college dorms in Aberdeen, and was going to university there. And what I remember is that Sister Malin and I had been GQing all day, and then we decided to go and find some doors people. And so we were buzzing the building, and someone just let us in. And we're like, so that was the last one we buzzed. So we went to that door and knocked on it, and this guy opened the door, and he had like moving boxes and like older people like just kind of doing stuff in his flat. And I remember looking in, and he's like, "Oh, missionaries." And I was like, "Yeah, we're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." And he's like, "Yeah, I've heard about your Joe Smith." And he said something else about like he was a genius, but a completely false prophet. And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, think so?" And so I almost like threw the card at him and was like, "Maybe you should learn about something before you go telling people what you think you know about it." And I think I turned around and I walked away, and Malin was like, and like followed me. It's like, "Oh, I guess we're leaving now." And I was like, "I don't have time for that. I don't have time for you to sit here and tell me what I believe." And so I was kind of done that day, I guess. And so that's what I remember is like he was kind of rude to us, and so I was kind of rude back. And um, Elder Howe was like, "Hey, do you remember knocking on this guy's door?" And I said, "Well, what did I say?" And he said, "You said something about needing to know more about Joseph Smith before he goes and talks about it." And I was like, "Oh, I think I remember that guy." Anyway, so after I had said that to him and threw the card at him, he went online and he learned more about Joseph Smith and about our church. And then he saw Elder Howe and his companion, because Elder White had gone home, walking through the street. And he ran after him and was like, "Hey, hey, hey, I need to talk to you." And Elder Howe was like, "Oh, what about?" He says, "I need a Book of Mormon and I need you to come teach me about your church." And Elder
Oh
Howe
my
was like,
God.
"What are you? Oh, okay, 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 we're on board." Anyway, so they started teaching him, and he was like, just golden. Like he just wanted to learn more, and he heard the spirit when it talked to him. Like he could really feel that, like what he knew before was false, and that what we were teaching was true. And he's like, it's just
That's amazing.
amazing. He said it's amazing to, in his conversion story, he said something like, "I was so against it, and when I really found out the truth and found out more about it, then I felt like I knew more and could feel more and felt like it was true." He said, "But one of the things that surprised him was that Joseph Smith did what he did when he did it and had no idea the technology and stuff that we would have today to disclaim it." And he said, "And even with all of that, it doesn't matter. Like the spirit will still tell you if it's true." So
Wow.
anyway, and I've never met him.
That's cool.
The only time I met him was when we knocked on his door. So
Oh my gosh.
one day, Greg, one day, I'd love to meet you. But
That's a great story.
yeah, it was really cool because like sometimes you just never get to hear the other side of like knocking on a person's door, like you're their first contact. So that was really cool. And I appreciate that like he wrote down his conversion story, and then Elder Howe like distributed it to the people who had a part. So that was really cool. And Elder Howe should be on here too. He's trying to be. Yeah, my battery is running low. There we go. Oh, okay. We're charging now. Yeah, so that was cool. One of the things that I loved about Sister Malin was she let me cook like actual dinner. Like she'd be like, "All right, we're done. We're going home. We're making dinner." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So we'd go home and actually make dinner, like take time to make dinner. And I think with Sister Samus, we were just running. And so I don't know, I don't remember like making dinner or like eating dinner, like good stuff, like chicken Alfredo or anything. And Malin was like, "At least once a week, we need to have good food." like food that actually tastes good.
A
Not
good
love.
rule.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she was just fun. She was fun to be with. She was fun to talk to. She always had something funny to say. And like her experiences were really cool. She was a convert to the church. And so she had a different opinion of a lot of things and saw things differently. And I think I learned a lot from her that way. And I got to serve with her twice. So I served with her in Montrose again. And yeah, so like Leyland and I got along really well. And Allie, you need to be on here too. I'll come on if you want me to. Like we can do it together. If I know you're not scared because you're not scared of anything, but you just don't want to talk to people. It's your, it, yeah,
Can't
I
be
mean,
bothered.
yeah. Can't be bothered. Can't be bothered to go and do that. Too busy.
Allie's been mentioned quite a few times, and we know how connected she is to Jade McGowan and Catherine McConkey, and
She
that
served with
that
everyone.
that little trio. I
Yeah.
mean, she says she's apprehensive, but I don't know. I think that she's just worried she'll enjoy it. So, Allie, come on the podcast. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, for reals. We would love it. Because we miss you. We miss your funny, dry humor that is a bit sarcastic. Yeah, miss it.
And Amy just offered to hold your hand while you talk about the mission. So come on.
Not literally, though. I won't hold it literally, but like
digitally.
visually, I will be here for you. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
That's awesome.
yeah, she was so much fun. But we only had 6 weeks there. But I still have a lot of memories, a lot of people that we met on the street. We liked to go on the main street in, I think it's Union Street in Aberdeen, and talk to people. And there was a Lush on that street. Remember Lush? Like the whole street smelled like Lush and Starbucks. So it was like you went through the Lush part and then you got past that and then you're like to the Starbucks smell. So it's like it had like a progression of smells, aphrodisiacs.
I also remember there was a cinema on Union Street. So you got Lush, Starbucks, and then popcorn. Like anytime you walk by the cinema, the doors opened and it was always smelled like popcorn. It's pretty funny. That was a good memory.
I remember the gum on the streets in Aberdeen. Do you remember the gum?
Oh my
word. Like at first I was like, what is that? And then I like got closer. I was like, that's disgusting. I'm like, why isn't gum stuck to the street all over in America? Like, what? That's weird. Anyway, it was just like it looked like cobblestones. Like
there was so much
gum. Yeah.
I always wondered why they didn't just throw it in like the gutter. Like it was dropped where everyone walks. Like I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like that I found that was really odd. What else about Aberdeen? Oh, we went a lot of places. Oh, we went on a joint teach with Elder Austin and his companion. They were teaching a lady and they asked us if we would go with them or something. And so we went and met this lady and had lunch with her and a lesson or something like that. So I got to talk to get to know Elder Austin a little bit there. He was an interesting guy. Like I really appreciated like everything that came out of his mouth was like wisdom, and you were like, oh wow, that's so profound. And it's like it's just as well.
Trainer.
Was he your trainer?
Yeah.
It was just his Welsh accent. Like it's just so sweet. I guess I don't know, but yeah, she had a problem with animal sacrifices in the Old Testament, and I was like. It was so random, right? So random. Like she just all of a sudden is like, I just can't get past them killing those little lambs. And I was like, we have no idea like what their culture really entailed, right? Like and that's what I told her. I said, it was a different time. Like you can't say that a whole people were horrible because of this thing. And then I explained to her what the lamb represented, and she was like, "Oh, that makes sense, but that's still so sad." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. It's still so sad." It was so funny, so random. I was like, "How interesting." Yeah. So, what else about Aberdeen? Phil and Kath. Do you remember Philip?
In the Aberdeen ward?
Bridge of Dawn.
Oh, Bridget Dawn. No, I was in the Aberdeen ward.
Yeah.
I remember
So
the names. I've heard them many times from people on
yeah,
the podcast, and I remember that from the mission, but I don't
yeah.
know that I ever met them.
Phil and Kath. I think they liked sisters better. But
Makes sense why I don't know them very well.
yeah. And I think Allie actually built a pretty good relationship before I got there
Mhm.
with Phil, and Kath was kind of a shut-in. She didn't like to go out. And so Phil was her, like, he'd go out and do the shopping, he did everything. And yeah, but they knew how to feed us sisters, and they spoiled us. They were really sweet.
Hmm.
Vicky and Paul McDonald were in the ward then. I remember having a DA with them, and it was like just really quick and like, oh yeah, we talked to each other for a while and got to know each other. And then I was only there for 6 weeks, so it's like it's really hard to build relationships like that. And then when I moved up to Shetland, Vicky and Paul were there too. They had moved to
Oh,
Shetland
wow.
in between my other places, and so when they got there, I met them. So that was cool. I love them. They're really sweet. Yeah. So moving on after Sister uh, Malin, I went to Sister Miller in Ayr, and trying to remember. I think it was Elder Fish and Elder Petty were in Ayr with us, and oh, maybe it wasn't. I'm having a hard time remembering now. That might have been. Yeah, I think they were. So I was with Sister Miller for 3 months, and then I got Sister Lewis for 6 weeks in Ayr. So that was like my longest area all at once. And Sister Miller, because of her health problems, we were just took it easy. We were just teaching people, finding people to teach, or just moving at her pace and trying to eat healthy so that she would feel better. And so we did do a lot of meals at home. We made a lot of thank you notes. She's one of those people who really likes to do scrapbooking and make pretty cards and stuff. So we made lots of thank you notes, and that was you would think that would that's just a little thing, but we spent a lot of time making cards. Like I would say that might have been like 20% of the time that we spent together was doing cards. And then so every time we went to a DA, every time we went somewhere, we would have a little card to say thank you or like something we loved about those people. And it was just like kind of old lady-ish, but loved it. And Martha would be okay with me saying that. She'd be like, totally, totally old lady-ish, but it was what we did. And I learned how to drive there, and that was fun, scary. And I think I talked about that in the other episode.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, and she was such a good sport, and she was scared, but we made it through. Oh, goodness. And President was like, I don't know, Sister Cooper's been in an accident. She rolled a car, for heaven's sakes. I don't know if she should be driving. And I'm like, "Not what you got. That's it." If you want Sister Miller to be able to get where she wants to go, we gotta have a car. So we had a lot of fun together, and we still have a good relationship. I went and saw her last month
nice.
when we had some dentist appointments out in Spanish Fork. We got together, and that was fun.
Cool.
it's nice to have people that you know and love and trust already, and like just be together. So that was fun. Um, and trying to remember. um, Yeah, and then I got Sister Lewis. Sister Lewis was my first British companion. Bless her heart. It was a bit rough. Because so I'd come from Sister Miller, who was very Utah, Orem, Provo area, like laid back, and she wasn't feeling good, so it was even more laid back. And then I get Sister Lewis, and she is like on fire, ready to go, ready to do. And I like introduce her to all of our people that we've been teaching and stuff. And she's like so unimpressed, like so underwhelmed. Like she, she was like, "This is it? Like, really?" And I was like, "Yep." So
Oh
we
man.
kind of kicked it into high gear and started knocking on more doors and stopping more people in the street and walking a lot more. And I was like, "Oh, I'm with Sister Samus again. Okay. We are walking again. We are exercising." So, yeah. And then I think that was when I realized, oh, and during Sister Miller's, while I was with Sister Miller, I had a toothache and I had a tooth go bad and had to go to the dentist and get a root canal. And so I was not at the top of my game. I did not feel great. Like, so with Sister Miller, I had that issue going on. And I don't know if any of you have been like through that, but it's not like it doesn't just affect your mouth, it affects your whole body. Like your whole body is in pain or it hurts. And then you have to go through like the recovery. And so like with Sister Miller, I didn't really notice it because she was already like super, slowed down. And so I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going and getting all this work done. And so a cool experience that I don't think I shared the first time is so it was this tooth in front, and it was um my toothache hurt so bad that like my whole face hurt, like it hurt to touch my face.
Ooh.
And I was taking medicine like Tylenol, and then finally I was like, I need something stronger, so I started taking the Excedrin. And I was in so much pain that I couldn't remember last time I took it. So I told Sister Martha Miller to start writing down when I was taking it because I couldn't remember. So she was like, "Sister Cooper took an eccentric at, at whatever time." I was like, "That's not fair." So she was like keeping track of my pain meds for me. And it got to where like 2 Excedrin was not even cutting it. Like my
Oh
face
man.
still hurt so bad. And we had a thing going on with the ward and with the elders at the church. And the flat is right across from the church in Air. And I was walking from our flat to the church, and um what did I say? I think I said, "My face hurts so bad, I want to cry." And Sister Miller looked over at me and she said, "You are crying." And I was, my, like my tears were going down my face and I could not feel them because my face hurt so bad.
Oh
Like
man.
it was
Gosh.
so bad. And so, and I am not one to really whine or get like physical stuff. I just kind of try and power through it. And I had migraines most of my life, and I just power through it. Take some medicine and just do it. Get through it. And so there was that. I was on Excedrin. My face hurt so bad I couldn't even feel the tears on my face. And we go to the church, and the elders had just burned popcorn in the church microwave.
Oh no.
Do you remember this, Elder Fish? It was with Elder Drew. If you don't remember, you and Elder Drew had just burnt bags of popcorn in the microwave, and the church smelled like burnt popcorn forever. because I went back and it still smelled like burnt popcorn. So that had just happened, and they were, I think, rushed trying to get the popcorn and make people happy, and like they were having a movie. And I come in and I say, I Elderfish, I need you to give me a blessing. And he said, what's going on? And I said, I have a toothache and my face hurts so bad that painkiller is not working anymore. And I just need to feel better. I can't keep doing this. And it had been a whole week of having the pain and going like, and so it had all come to that. And he's like, okay, Elder Drew, come on. So we all go in the bishop's office and he gives me a blessing. And he says, um, I bless you in the name of Jesus Christ that you'll be able to do the work that God has sent you to do without pain and discomfort, I think is what he said. And when he said it, the pain left my face.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, I was so like, I was surprised, but so relieved. And I remember just sitting there feeling so relieved and so blessed. And it was a miracle. And Elderfish didn't know. He had no idea. And today he probably doesn't know. So I hope he listens because it was a miracle. And like it was, and so from that time, the pain left my face. I wasn't in pain anymore. The pain was dull, but it wasn't like I couldn't function anymore. I could feel my face again. And I think the next day no, 3 days later, we went to the dentist and he was like, you need a root canal. And he was able to fix it and stuff. But, and there's a whole story with that. But uh, anyway, so the only dentist I ever met was in Air Ward ever. And he's the one who took care of my tooth
In the ward?
in the ward.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's a miracle.
It was an absolute miracle. He was the only dentist I'd ever met on my mission that was a member of the church. And that's where I was when this happened. And I went to the NHS. The dentist there tapped on my tooth, put a light behind it, and he said, your tooth is dead or dying. And I said, so? He said, you need a root canal. And I said, so do you do that? Nope, not here.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
it. Like he didn't say anything else. So I look at the nurse, the lady, and she's like, you can pay at the front office. I was like, what? Like, what am I supposed to do now? I have a tooth that's dead or dying. I need a root canal, and you have no answers, like no help whatsoever. And I was like, here's your £5. Goodbye. I wouldn't want you working on my face anyway, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
so I found there was a dentist in the ward, and he was the one that was able to do my root canal while I was on my mission. So that was another miracle. So I had gone through all of that and hadn't felt great and was kind of rebounding. Then I got Sister Lewis, and I was I still felt pretty crappy. And she was like, come on, let's go. There's nothing wrong with you. It was Sister Miller, right? And I was like, okay, we're going. And at some point I was emotionally and physically exhausted. And I was like, Elderfish, I need a blessing. And so in the 4.5 months that I was there, I asked for a blessing twice. On the second time, he brings me this 3x5 card, and it says, reasons for asking for a blessing. And it had all of the real reasons why you should ask for a blessing. And I was like, I am going to choose not to be offended because I don't think I ever asked for a blessing at any other time in my whole mission. And it just happened to be in those two places in Air with Elderfish. And so he was like, she's one of those. She's one of those that needs a blessing every month. Oh my goodness. So, and I'm sure that happens, but I really did need it. And it was an answer to prayer both times. And yeah, so Sister Lewis and I did really good together once I got feeling better. And trying to remember, she might have started driving because she could drive. I can't remember. Yes, she did. And she was scary. And I was not as scary as she was. And I was like, really? And anyway, and she was a sugar fiend. Like, we would be in the middle of like knocking on doors or going to an appointment. And she's like, stop at Tesco, stop at Tesco. I need something. And she would go in and she would come out with her arms full and like well, no, she wouldn't even get a basket. That's what it was. She didn't even get a basket. And she would just go to the candy aisle and grab like 4 packages of whatever looked good, go and buy it, and then get in the car and be like eating it. And she did introduce me to sushi. She was the first one who was like, "You got to try sushi." And I was like, "Sushi from a grocery store? I think that sounds dangerous," is what that sounds like. Anyway, so she got me to taste it. But yeah, she was so funny. But yeah, she had a sugar addiction that paled in comparison to my best friend Chantel. Like, it was crazy. And I was like, okay, wow, all right. If you need that much sugar, you have that much sugar. And I was like, I'll try not to eat it all with you because I know it's not good for me. I do not have your metabolism. That's what I knew. Anyway, but she
That's
was fun.
that's probably why Sister Lewis was always like humming, ready to go. She was just hopped up on sugar the whole time. We'll ask her when she comes on the podcast. That would be
Yeah,
a
it
funny,
makes me
funny one to
wonder.
ask.
Maybe she drank caffeine before her mission, and then she wasn't drinking it on her mission, but she could get candy. I don't know. But yeah, she totally needs to be on, Sister Lewis. Jane, it's time. We want to hear all of your awesome experiences. But
Mhm.
yeah, she was so much fun though, and she was just going crazy. Like, it was just fun. Once I felt better. When I didn't feel good, it was a bit hard. But and she said things that I had no idea what she meant because she was British and I was in Scotland, which I had been used to Scottish people's verbiage, and all of my companions had been Canadian or American from and been in Scotland. So they all used Scottish verbiage, but like she was using completely different phrases. I had no idea what meant. Um, I think it was her that first said, "Bless his cotton socks." And I was like, "What?"
That's a very English term.
Yes, very. She said it. And then I got with Sister Kenny and she said it too. And I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
my gosh.
it's just a thing." Like they all say, because when Sister Lewis said it, I was like, "What does that mean exactly?" And she's like, "Oh, it's like bless his heart." Yeah, like bless her heart, like that. And I was like, "Okay, cotton socks, whatever." Oh,
That's funny.
anyway, yeah, we had a lot of fun, but we were only together for 6 weeks. But I think it was good because it kind of introduced me to the British vibe, and so she broke me in there. And then from there, I'm pretty sure that's when I went to Edinburgh to train. Let me make sure. Yeah. Yep. I got sent to Edinburgh to train with Sister Kenny. Excuse me. And we were training Sister Bautista. And so I was coming back to Edinburgh, and but all new people. Like, all the elders were different. And even the members that we were seeing were different. And I don't know if it's just because they jived better with the sisters before. I don't know. It was just, but we were kind of whitewashing. But I had been there before, but I'd only been there for 6 weeks, so it was like, "Oh, Sister Cooper, you're back. We don't really know you, but you're back." Like, we know and love you because you were here for a little bit, and that was it. But so in Edinburgh, we had, I'm trying to remember, Jenny and Fiona Whitecross were they always had the missionaries over and they loved us. We were good friends. And Liz Madsen and her husband's name is David. And I can't find them on Facebook. I can't, like, It's like they've disappeared. And they had, I think, 3 girls that were like 12 to 17, I think. And they were just like so sweet, so sweet. But and they had a friend named Emma that we taught, and a friend named Samantha that we taught. And I think both of them did end up getting baptized. Samantha was young; she was like 13, and so sweet though. Like, and she actually would read the Book of Mormon, and she would do the they were great, and the Matsons were really good support for them. Um, it was their house that we were going to when we got in the car accident.
Oh, wow.
So the car accident with Elder Brownlow and is it Farnsworth?
Yep.
And then there was me and Sister Bautista and Sister Kenny. And we were allowed to ride in the same car because they were the APs and we were going to the Madsons. That was it. Like, sisters didn't ride in the same cars as the elders ever. It was like not happening. And and I know this. The reason I know this is because one time we were walking down the street. I'll get back to the car accident in a second. Well, we were walking down the street, and Elder Pullen and Elder Kellogg saw us, and they pulled over and said, "Where are you going? We can give you a ride." And we told them where we were going. And we're like, "Oh, maybe it's all right." And we had no idea that this was like a no. And so we get in the car and we drive like literally a mile. Like, it was very, very short. And Elder Kellogg gets a call and he answers the phone and he says, we're just over, we're on our way here. And they said, "Are you alone?" And Elder Kellogg is like, "What?" And they're like, "Do you have sisters in your car?" And Elder Kellogg was like, "Yeah, they were walking on the road. We thought we would give them a ride." And Elder Pullen's eyes and his eyebrows get really big. And he's like, "Oh, shoot, we're in trouble." I was like, "Oh, we are?" So whoever was on the phone, I have no idea who was on the phone, but said, "You need to pull over and let the sisters out. They can walk wherever they're walking to. It's fine." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Guess we're walking again. Thanks for the mile, guys."
Oh, my goodness.
And yeah, Elder Pullen, after they got off the phone, he was like, "Yeah, it's against the rules to give you a ride, I guess, ever." And I was like, "Yep, I guess it is." And so, yeah, and then so they couldn't give us a ride. So the APs were coming, and I think they only came on Sundays, so they traveled a lot, right? And so they were there on Sundays, and we would go to our DA with the Madsons, and the APs would go with us. I think one, because they could drive and they lived a little bit out, and it saved us time in busing when we were going to the DA and coming back. And the Matsons always had someone to teach for us, so when we were going, we were staying till 8:30, right? And so it just made sense to have the elders bring us back. So we were on our way there, and like Elder Brownlow was saying, that we got hit by a car, and like, I had completely forgot this, guys. Completely forgot it. It was not even in my memory until he's told the story, and I was like, "Oh, I do remember that. Oh my goodness." And I remember I was it took me a good couple weeks because I remember the story and I was like, "Why don't I remember that? Like, I should remember that I almost died in a car accident on my mission and we had divine intervention, right?" And as I thought about it, I think I realized that there were a lot of times on my mission and before my mission that I could have died and I didn't. And it's like, how many times does it happen? And because it's happened before, you kind of discount it or you forget it. And I was like, that is something to think about. Like, if we don't write down our miracles and if we don't review them and retell them, we will forget them. And so I had fallen asleep when I was driving on my way home from college before my mission. I fell asleep and I rolled my car 8 times. And like it was, and I was in a Geo, an old Geo. So
Gosh.
it was before they made them out of like plastic. So it was metal, but still my car was completely trashed. All of the windows had got broken out of it, all the seats, like how the seat brackets that hold it up, they were all broken. Like by the time my car stopped, I was like laying flat and I had to sit up to see, and my rear view mirror was like hanging down. And so I like grabbed it to see if I was okay. And I had like blood running from my head and like crazy. So from that car accident, I had no injuries. I had cuts and some bruises, but I had no real injuries. And that was a miracle. And the doctors were like, I can't believe you lived through rolling a Geo. And the officer that came in and told me that, he said, I'm not going to give you a citation because you're lucky to be alive, but don't sleep, don't fall asleep driving ever again. I was like, you won't have to tell me that again. That is not happening. And the insurance actually called my mom and was like, told them that they were sorry that I died, because like they offered condolences. And she was like, wait a minute, she lived. And they're like, no, are you sure? They're like, this is a dumb question. But we have no record of anyone ever rolling a Geo and living. We tried to find when someone rolled a Geo and they lived. And my mom was like, nope, she's alive. She's in the other room. And they're like, okay.
Wow, bro.
Yeah. So I had been through that car accident, and the mental, what goes through your mind is actually kind of crazy, because you know that God made it so you're alive. Like he helped you through that, and to come through without a scratch that was, forever lasting. Like I knew that I was supposed to be on the earth. I knew that I had things to do while I'm here. And that was like totally like confirmed to me that the spirit was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be dead. You have to be here. There's reasons for you to be here. And so while you have that, I also had Satan come into my mind at one point and say, you can do whatever you want. You could do whatever you wanted. You could live dangerously and God would still save you. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it took me way back when I had the thought and feeling, and I was like, that is not the right spirit. That is not like the way to think about things. And so like that was a really good lesson for me, because I really learned the difference between the spirit saying you're meant to be here, and then the other spirit saying you can do whatever you want and God won't let you die. And I was like, whoa. It was like a moment where like you're like, oh, okay, that, because Satan will take everything that you do and every spiritual experience, and he'll turn it around and try and manipulate it to his advantage. And so that was really interesting. So then we get in this car accident on my mission, and I think that I was just so I don't know, like, oh, it happened again. Like, it happened again. I got in a car accident and I'm not dead. And everyone else in the car is like, what just happened? And I'm like, eh, it's not as bad as rolling a car 8 times and an ambulance having to take you to the hospital and you think that you've totally messed yourself up. Like, it's not that. And so, in contrast, I was like, there's not even a scratch on the car, guys. Like, yeah, we're good. Let's go to the Madsons. Dinner is waiting, right? So, like,
Wow.
so, and it makes me wonder, like, if and how I did react, because I completely had forgot about the car accident itself. But yeah, I was sitting behind Elder Brownlow, and I remember the car coming, and then like but it's sitting in the back, and I'm short, and those cars, the back door, it comes up to right here. So it's not like I had really good view of the car coming either. So it's I just was like, oh, we got in a car accident. And I probably was not even paying attention, because I didn't drive in Edinburgh and had no reason to really care about what streets we were on or where we were going or anything. So yeah.
Wow.
So that is my remembrance of the car accident. And yeah, so that's what I remember. But write down your miracles, because if you don't, you'll forget them. So that was one of the things I learned from there. So Sister Kenny was awesome to train with. And she, in her podcast, she said something like, I worried that I was way too much. I was just going too fast, and I was too loud, and I was not what Sister Cooper and Sister Bautista needed. And I think she worried about that. But I tell you what, if we hadn't had her, it would have been hard. We needed her fire, we needed her get up and go, we needed her energy to get us going, because Sister Bautista and I could sit in the flat and sing all day and be totally happy. Yeah, so we really needed Sister Kenny. I think we did need the three of us together too, because we could trade off with Sister Bautista, and it gave her really good experiences with British companions and American companions and different types of people. And I think it was really good for her and for us, because we could trade off training. And then when we were tired of training, we could split off and be like, oh, I'm going to go GQ down this street this way, and you guys just go right behind me, and that's how we would GQ, is one single and then the two behind, so that you could see each other the whole time. But and then if we stopped to talk to someone, the two would just kind of go in front and then see if they could find someone to talk to, and if they couldn't, they would just wait and watch you talk to someone. And then if it was going on a long time, then our system was that the two would join the one that was all alone, and then help finish up the conversation, get contact information, and then go. And because sometimes that would happen when yeah, it just did. But we found a lot of people when I was with Sister Kenny and Sister Roberts with Sister Bautista, talking to people on the streets. There's one that we met that he eventually got baptized, Gordon, and Sister Roberts talked about him a little bit. Gordon was awesome. He was a really cool guy. And I was his first contact. I didn't stop him. Sister Roberts and Sister Bautista stopped him while I was talking to someone else. And they were standing outside his church, and he came out of the church, and Sister Roberts says, "Hey, can we talk to you for a minute?" And he was like, yeah. And so they started talking to each other, and he said, "I have to get home, but here's my contact information. Call me and we'll set up a time to meet and talk." And he was totally serious, and he ended up getting baptized. Yeah, he was a really awesome guy. Yeah.
He walked out of his church and ran into a new church.
Well, so that was the thing, that he was actually going to different churches trying to find the truth. And so he had been going to that church, and he was starting to feel like, I like it, they're good people, but I don't know if it's everything that I need. And so when we were standing right there, and so I remember they were talking to him, and it was getting pretty late at night too. It was 8 at least. And I came up, and they were just finishing up getting his contact information. And then I think a week after that, or 2 weeks after that, I got sent away. And so they finished teaching him. But yeah, Gordon Stevenson. Yeah, Gordon Stevenson, really, really cool guy. I wish I would have got to meet him and talk to him more, but that's the way it was. There was also, just a second, Dixon. Oh, I should know his name. It might come to me. There was an older gentleman. Do you remember them talking about? There's an older gentleman that
I don't
we
remember
taught.
the name.
It might come to me. I should know it, but he the sisters taught him for quite a while, but it was like in between me. So like it was after I had left, and I met him a couple of times, and I think I was even there when he was baptized. But for some reason, I don't even remember all of the circumstances. I think I was with a companion that wanted to go to the baptism and President Letter. So we came to Edinburgh to go to his baptism. But he had been a war veteran, and he was really worried about the things that he had done while he was at war, and whether or not God could forgive him. So he asked for a meeting with President. And I remember watching him go to the meeting with President, and he was literally like sweating bullets, and he had a manila folder, and he was like, I can't talk to you sisters about this stuff, but I can talk to another man, and I need to know if God will really forgive me for this stuff. And we were like, go ahead, do what you got to do. And when he came out, the President was like, oh my goodness, guys. Oh my goodness. Like he was like, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. I feel so bad that I can't remember his name. Anyway, but yeah, he was really awesome. He was a really cool guy. Anyway, so Sister Kenny, oh, I have a picture. Where'd my pictures go? I have to show you this one. Ah, I set them down. Oh, they're there. So Sister Kenny and Sister Bautista and I were together over Christmas and New Year's. And this is New Year's Eve. We found these amazing wigs, and we bought ourselves some slur and the Ferrero Rocher, and we had a party, and it was so much fun.
That's a great picture.
Yes, it was. And so, yep, that was good. What I'll do is I'll do like a post on the S.E.M. of all of the pictures that like kind of go with some of the people that I've talked about today. But yeah, so and then Sister Roberts came, and as hard as it was with Sister Kenny and Sister Bautista, it was just as hard with Sister Roberts and Sister Bautista. I don't know, and I think Sister Kenny explained that Sister Cooper was one of the most peaceful people I've ever met. I think is what she said. And while we were serving together, she actually like we had to do the strengths and weaknesses cards. Remember those?
Uh-huh.
And on one of the strengths for me, she said godly. And I was like, no, that is way too much. And she's like, no, really, you're godly. Like she says, I don't know anyone else who could do this and stay so calm. And I was like, people are just people. And that's one of the things that I loved. Like my whole mission was like I would meet new people, and they all had quirks, so they all had funny things about them, and things that were sometimes hard to deal with. But getting all upset about something never does any good. So it's just if you can just love people the way they are, that's just the best way. And so yeah, Sister Bautista did some things that really annoyed Sister Kenny and Sister Roberts, and I'd just be like, why get upset about it? Yeah, it might be annoying, but what are you gonna do? Like tell her not to be herself, like not to try and be comfortable in. And I think that was one of the things that was how I learned with Sister Bautista is that you can't make people who they aren't, and you can't tell them to do things or not to do things. the best way is to make them feel loved, and then they'll see what is awkward and what isn't.
Mhm.
And because Sister Baptista could be so awkward. It was just so funny. And it's usually when we were around the elders. I don't know if they just made her nervous or what, but like she would say some of the most awkward things, and we were like, "Oh wow." Oh, I remember when we were together though. Elder Pullen gave Elder Kellogg a haircut. Do you remember them talking about this?
I don't remember
Oh,
that.
wow. So we go to the church and I go to say, "Oh, Elder Kellogg." And Elder Poland comes up behind him and he's like, "No, do not say anything about the haircut." Like he's crossing his fingers across the deck, like, "Don't do it. Don't say anything." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I didn't say anything. Later, I go to Elder Poland and I'm like, "What did you do to his hair? Like, what happened?" And he's like, "I don't know. He has a really hard head of hair to cut. Like, I don't know." And I was like, "It's bad." He's like, "I know. Don't say anything though."
Mhm.
So Elder Kellogg, I'm so sorry. That was the worst haircut ever. And like you lived through it. Man, it was hard, I'm sure, but you lived through it. Yeah, like he like wouldn't talk to Elder Poland for like a week. It was that bad. Like,
We can't wait to see a picture of it.
yeah, I think what happened is something went wrong, and instead of yeah, they just buzzed it. They just like they was so short. I was like, "Oh wow!" Like I don't look good. Oh yeah, but
Oh
they
man.
were fun. They were the office elders, and so we would like go and get our mail from them to see if it was there early because they could send it and forward it to our flat, and we would go and be like, "Do you have any mail for us?" But they were fun. Um, yeah, Elder Poland. Oh my goodness, he drove the white van. Do you remember the white van? What they call it? Helga the Pale? Is that right?
I don't
Oh,
know.
you were in
I
Edinburgh.
hadn't
I've
heard that.
never
No,
heard Edinburgh.
That's funny.
yeah, I can't remember who said it, but they called the big white van Helga the Pale. And um I have no idea where we were going or why, but we all were in this van and Elder Poland was driving on the freeway and I was so car sick by the time we got home. I was like, I don't get car sick. Like I am not I go to Lagoon and I'm fine. Like I don't get car sick. And by the time we got home, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so horrible." He was just like, and the van like sways. Like instead of like a regular car that's like, yeah, nah, it like swayed. And so it was like we were swaying and he was like passing people on the freeway. And so it was like swaying all over the place. And I was like, "Oh my goodness. I hope we make it home alive." And then I was like, got home. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sick." Oh, but yeah. Thanks, Elder Poland. That was great driving. Good job.
I remember riding in that van with Poland driving. And the funny thing is, when you said Helga the Pale, I can hear him saying that. I don't know why. It's somewhere
Maybe it was
deep in
him.
my memory, but he's like, "All right, we're getting in Helga the Pale. Let's go." And I was like, "What?" And then we got in the van. Like, I don't know why. I can hear him saying that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know where we were going. Oh, I have to like I have to put in a plug. So I'm trying to remember. Elder Stanley came in. And I think he came in. I can't remember who his companion was. I think it was Elder Kellogg. And we would go to Jim and Rose's. Can't remember their last name right now, but Jim and Rose. And Rose had dementia and was in a wheelchair. And her husband, Jim, was the salt of the earth. He was just one of the sweetest men I've ever met in my life. He was just wonderful. And why I remember them so well is that he would have us come to the DA and he would have some like the main course made, but he wouldn't have the salad made or like things that needed chopped up and stuff. So he would give us all jobs. he's like, "Hey, you're on salad, you're on apples." He'd give us all these jobs to do, and we would, help him prepare dinner. And then he would take a little bit of everything and put it in the blender. And one of us, it would be our job or his, but like he would give us the job of feeding Rose. And so, like, it was just a really sweet, um, oh, it's just heartwarming to see someone in that situation and just showing so much love and kindness for someone who couldn't do things for themselves. And he encouraged us to talk to Rose, like she could respond. And he said, just talk to her, tell her stories. You can ask her questions, but try to listen with your heart and the spirit. Like, it was just one of those, it was probably one of the most spiritual experiences on my mission was going to Jim's house and seeing how the home that they made together was just so sacred. And he just took care of her, and he showed us how to take care of people. It was really awesome. And yeah, it was really cool. And I loved that. Trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to say about Edinburgh. Being so close to Sister Breen's and President Breen's was great. It really was. There was one time where, like, I might have said this in the last episode, I can't remember, but it had been raining and one of my shoes had broken down to the point where, like, the sole had like a hole in it, but like water would get up inside, like the weird part inside the sole, and then it would leak out. Well, I didn't really know that until it had been raining and we walked to the mission home for something, and we walked in, and I don't even remember why we were going in the kitchen, because we usually didn't. We usually stayed in the office area, and we walked in the kitchen, and one of the elders was behind me, and he's like, "Sister Cooper, go, get out, get out." And I was like, "What?" And I like turned around, and I had leaked on the white carpet, like rainwater out of my shoe. And he's like, "Sister Breens can't see this. Sister Breens can't see this. She will freak out." And I was like, okay. So I go in the other room and I took my shoes off, and he's like getting paper towels and he's like dabbing it. And he's like, "I hope she doesn't see this. I hope it comes out." And I was like, whoa, this is a little crazy over the top. And he's like, "No, you do not understand. You do not get stuff on the white carpet." And I was like, okay. Apparently, someone had got cussed out pretty good about getting something on that white carpet, because he was pretty upset about it. I was like, well, who knew? And yeah, I left those shoes on my mission. I was like, there you go, Sister Georgieva. No, I wore those ones home. I gave her my good ones, and I wore those ones home because I knew they were going to go in the garbage anyway. So I gave her like all of my clothes that I didn't want to wear when I got home. Yeah, I came home pretty light because I just left them all there because she could fit into them. But yeah, that was one of the experiences. I was like, oh, whoa, yeah. So after Sister, sorry guys, it's getting long.
You're good.
After Kenny and Bautista and Sister Roberts and Sister Bautista, I got sent to Shetland. And the cool thing about that was Elder Archambault was in the office. That's who came with Elder Stanley. That was his other companion. Yeah, I think that, yeah. Anyway, eventually it was Elder Stanley and Elder Archambault. And Elder Archambault was in the office typing something up on one of the computers. And we came into the mission home for something. And it might have been for interviews. And he was, I don't even remember. It was really odd. He was doing something on the computer, and I peeked in, and he's like, "Oh, Sister Cooper." And I was like, "Oh, like, you want to talk to me? Like, what have I done, Elder Archambault?" And he was really particular about a lot of things. He had a pretty good, I don't know. He was very straight-laced, and you did things just so, which was great for him in the office because they needed someone who did things just so, right? But he was doing something, typing things up, and then he said something like, uh, I heard a rumor that they're sending sisters to Shetland. And I was like, that's random. And the spirit said, that's you. And I was like, okay. All right. So I was I was like, it was very clear though. That's you. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I better prepare myself, right? But when I had served with Sister Sama, she had told me about Orkney. She talked about Orkney all the time. And I was like, oh, I would really love to serve on an island. I think I might serve on an island. And she was like, no, you won't, because they're going to close Orkney. Or they had turned it over to elders, I think. And she's like, nope, you probably won't. So she was like totally nixed it. Like, and I was like, all right then. And she was right about everything. Just kidding. Oh, I love her. But yeah, so she had said something about serving on an island, and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to serve on an island. And then when he said that, and it was like, that's you, and I was like, I'm serving on an island. Huh, that's interesting. So I just kept that in my heart. I didn't tell anybody. And then when moves came, uh, and they called me and they said, you're gonna go to Shetland, and your companion is going to be. And I waited for it, and they said, we don't know. She's not here yet, but you're gonna train. And I was like, oh, okay. So then, because you didn't find out who your companions were if you were training yet until you got to the mission home, and they paired you all up. So they just told me I was training, and I was like, okay. So, and whitewashing, and I was like, this is gonna be fun and scary. So, um, but yeah, I was excited, and I had the total like confirmation that that is where God wanted me to be, and that was a really good thing because Shetland was hard. There were parts of Shetland that was like, you're not like it was so difficult that you really doubted that you were supposed to be there. And so you were like, okay, I am supposed to be here. I know God sent me here for a reason. And so Elder Garnham and Sister Garnham and I were great together. She was so patient and she was so excited, and she was so excited to do everything and meet everyone that we'd never met before and cold call people. And she was great. And I was having lots of migraines, and so there were some times when we couldn't go out, and she was very patient, and she just worked on her sticks. Is that what they were called?
Yeah,
your sticks.
the memorization.
Right.
Yep, all of her memorization. She was almost passed off by the time she got out of Shetland. Like, I think she might have passed off in Shetland because there was just enough time to do it. And then an Elder Bear was our district leader. I don't know if he remembers that because apparently there was a lot going on when he was district leader. and and he would forget to call us sometimes. And we would call him, Elder Bear, we are in the flat. And he's like, oh, good. You guys are doing awesome. I'm sure of it. And we were like, you have no idea what we're doing. We could be doing anything and you would have no idea. And but he was always very encouraging. It was kind of weird because it was like you had a district leader, but you really didn't. Like, he wasn't available. Like, you couldn't call him for it was just to make sure we were safe, really.
Wow.
And yeah, so we were really on our own up there. Like, a lot was just, and they didn't limit our miles. As far as I know, I don't think they limited our miles. Like, but we didn't use the car a lot. We used it to go into the little places way out, and there was a few DAs that we used it to go to members' houses because they were way out. But most of the time we just walked around, because if you didn't walk around, you didn't see people, and you needed to see people. And if people were tourists, they would be in Lerwick. And so that's where you wanted to stay, was in Lerwick. But we got to know the Catholic preacher there, and Catholic bishop, I think is what they would call him. And he was really nice. We talked to him quite a few times, just walking down the street. He'd be there and we'd be there, and he'd be like, "Oh, how you doing today?" There were people who came in to work, like on the fishing boats and stuff, and then would get jobs in Lerwick. We met a lot of them. But the one that, like, Cassie Leask is probably one of the reasons I was sent to Shetland. She's younger than me, but we became like best friends, like sisters. And she needed someone to help her understand some things about the atonement. And so we were there, and like she needed someone to talk to, because everyone else in the ward is like old and um really set in their ways. Scottish people, I love them, but sometimes they have a hard time like bridging that age gap, and she needed someone that was younger and understood certain things, and especially about just changing lifestyle. She had just and she was considered less active because she was baptized when she was young, and then her family fell away, and then she came back to church, and her family was like, "Why are you going back to church?" And she's like, "I need to." And they were like, "Okay, whatever." And so yeah, that was an important part of me being in Shetland. I'm sure there's quite a few people that I met and talked to and stuff, and that like actually don't even live there anymore. But there was one guy that was Polish, and we met with him a couple of times, and he came to a general conference. And after about 25-30 minutes, he was like, "Hey guys, I think I'm done." And we were like, "Okay." And he was like, "I like what they've said, but I gotta go." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah," because people aren't used to sitting for 2 or 3 hours, like just
Yeah.
listening to men talk, right? Old men talk about gospel stuff, and so it was kind of interesting. He was a really cool guy, and I know his name. His last name was Pulaski, I think. I have it written down, but I haven't been able to find him. I tried to find him on Facebook a couple of times, and he was a big Polish guy with a bald head. And he was super sweet though. Like he'd come on a fishing boat, and then the fishing boat job quit. Like they said, "Sorry guys, we don't have any more work for you." And he was like, I have a working visa for this long, and I need to work." And so he came into town and he found a job as a massage therapist.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and he was like, "Until my visa's out, I'll just be doing massage therapy here in Shetland." And I was like, "Good for you, man. Whatever." So, yeah, he was from Poland. He was really awesome. So Shetland was long. It was beautiful. It felt like home in a lot of ways. I got there in March, and it was brown because it's just cold and brown. And so I was like, "Oh, this feels a lot like home because home is brown." I was like, and then as I was there for longer, it greened up. But yeah, it was really funny though, because it felt like home when I got there. But like strange in the way that like I didn't know anybody. Edna and Robert Williams were amazing. He was the ward mission leader, and Edna would feed you till you were busting. She was just like she's a Filipino, and she'd just fill the table. And the first time we got there, it was like there was noodles and stir fry and soup and pancakes, and like there was everything on that table. And I was like, "We can't eat all of this. Like, what's gonna happen? She's like, well, I figure I'll take half and put it in the fridge for Robert's leftovers for his lunches, and then you guys take the other half, and that will feed you for a week. And I was like, oh, Edna, I love you. Yeah, she'd
Amazing.
make us. Yeah, she'd make us banana pancakes, and she'd feed us whenever we needed it. She was great. Um, yeah, so Shetland, and there was quite a few people on Shetland that I just loved. We taught a lady named Roberta, and she got baptized. Um, and she was just so sweet. And I think someone talked about, who was it? It might have been Roberts, Marin. She might have talked about Roberta, and in the context that we had baptized this sweet Christian lady, and the whole island was angry at us because she was baptized into our church and had left her own church. And yeah, so like there was lots of people that were like, you took Roberta from us. And we're like, she's amazing. We love her. But yeah, it was really hard for her because she had to walk around this island and people be mad at her for leaving her church. And it,
Wow.
I think eventually she may have gone back to it, or I don't know. She was getting pretty old and she may have just got to where she couldn't do it. She had some health problems, but she was so solid as far as like testimony goes. And she said the best prayers. They were so long and so great. They were wonderful. I loved her prayers. They were the best. Um anyway, so after Shetland, I got sent to Ayr and with Sister Bautista, and I was so sad. I was so broken. I was so sad that I had to leave Shetland and Sister Garnham, but but physically I felt broken too. Like I was so tired, and I look back on it and I'm like, my health was so bad as a missionary, and I don't know if anyone else could relate, but you were just like living day to day. You're like, we can do this. We'll get up. We'll do everything we're supposed to do, and God will bless us and He will carry us. And He did, right? But yeah, I was so tired. And then I get to Ayr, and like Sister Jagger said, she was in Ayr right before me with Sister Bautista, and it was hard. Her and Bautista didn't get along very well. I think they got along, they just didn't work the same, and it was hard for them. And because of that, they spent a lot of time with the elders, because you try and find someone who understands you. And I think that that's what happened was it just it they just spent a lot of time with the elders, but the members there were pretty bad at putting the elders and sisters together a lot. And so they would want both the elders and sisters to come to DAs, or they would want both of them to come to their house for activities or service or whatever. And so that's one of the things about Ayr, and it can be completely innocent, but things can grow from it that aren't. And I don't know all the what happened, but it was also President Breen's end. Like he was leaving, and I think that that situation just really frustrated him because he wanted it to be great, and something happened and it was not like what he wanted, and he was frustrated. Um, so I come in, and Sister Bautista tells me that they've been spending a lot of time with the elders, and that's why I think Sister Jagger got moved. And she was all upset because she felt like she was a bad missionary and that maybe she should have done something different. And I was like, what would you have done? Like, grab her and call her home, or like yell at her? Like, you just try and do your best. And in the like looking back at it, I'm like, everyone was just trying to do their best, just try to make it through. But because of that, I was not nice to Elder Bird. I was kind of rude to him. Actually, kind of is not the word. I think I was very cold, and I was just so frustrated about the situation, and I felt like I was sent in to fix it, and I didn't know how to fix it. Right? you don't fix something that's like maybe already broken, but you have no idea what actually happened, right? You have no idea what the real truth is of stuff that happened like that. So I was not very nice to Elderbird, but I had also come behind him in Montrose. So Elderbird and Paul
Christensen.
Christensen had been together in Montrose. So I had come behind him in Montrose, and there were all these investigators that were lovely, and we didn't know if they were really interested, but they loved Paul and Sean. And we are like, who is Paul and Sean? Like, who are these guys? And they're like, oh, they were the other missionaries. And we are like, what are their last names? And so yeah, because they just went around saying that their names were Paul and Sean, and I was like, or I'm Elder Bird, but you can call me Sean. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, is that like is that's not okay? Like it says not to do that in the handbook, and why would you tell someone to call you by your first name when you're there as Sister Cooper, right? Like I just didn't understand. And I think I understand better now because they were just that's just what happened. Like that's just how they wanted to roll, and I was like, okay. But for me, I was a bit frustrated because it creates relationships that are not built on just the gospel. And I think that's what frustrated me the most is that instead of it being like, I am your teacher, it was like, I am your best friend. And so coming behind Elder Bird, I was like, why does he get to use his first name? And why does he get to have best friends that are girls? And I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this. Anyway, so I get into air and I was like, Elder Bird. I was just so frustrated with him. So I gave him a really hard time and I was super cold. And I think after about 2 or 3 weeks, I realized the Elder Bird is a really cool guy and that he is really fun and just super sweet. Like, I was like, I can't hate you. What is wrong with that? Like, I was like, whatever. Okay, I guess we're friends now. Anyway, so Elder Bird and I, like I guess he apologized for living. And I said I was sorry for treating him badly, but I don't know if we ever actually said anything. Like they brought us a cake, and I think it was like, we don't know what we've done to tick you off, but here's the cake. So can you please be nice to us now? Like, yeah. So it was a really a funny situation because after a while I was like, this is stupid. Like, anyway, so eventually, like, he was headed home. Sean was headed home, and his parents came, and I got to meet his parents, and they took us out to eat on Sunday, and it was great, and we loved meeting them. They were super sweet people, and when I met his parents, I kind of understood why Sean is the way he is. He's just a sweetheart that likes to break the rules, and I was like, okay, whatever. I guess that's you. But it taught me such a good lesson that, like, don't hate people. Like, don't get angry at people for things that they've done. Like, you just treat people nicely and it'll all work out. Like, it was just such a waste of time and a waste of energy. And I wish I could go back and do it differently, but I probably wouldn't unless I knew everything I knew now, right? But anyway, so like I gave him a haircut before he left. He's like, I need a going home haircut, not a missionary haircut, Sister Cooper. And I was like, you're gonna get what you get because I don't have clippers. We're gonna have to find. He's like, well, these are the ones that are in the flat, and I'm like, these are garbage, so bad. Anyway, I did my best. I did my best, Silverbird. So yeah, and he was the only elder that I cut his hair. Only one. I didn't cut any other elder's hair. So Elder Bird, Sean, in some way, I guess you were special because I cut your hair. You're such a stinker. Such a stinker. Yeah.
Oh,
But
man.
he was with Elder McCabe and I think Elder Petty. I can't remember if Elder Petty was in my first time at Air or the second time, but yeah, the Elder McCabe was his greenie that he trained, and Elder McCabe was sweet too. They were great. They were fun. But yeah, went back to Air. Everything was completely different. Uh, I think they even had a different bishop. Like it was, it was just different. I don't think Gordon McLennan, I don't think was the ward mission leader anymore. They had moved to Troon. Loads of things had changed in just the 6 months that I was gone, and I was like, I wrote president, and I was like, nothing is the same. Like everything is different. And anyway, but yeah, so that was when President Sister Breens were headed home, and we were getting President Fredericks, and a lot of people have talked about the transition between President Breens and President Frederick. And from my point of view, President Breens was very strict. Like you followed the rules, you did what he said, and you were blessed. Like that's it. Like full stop. And yeah, I just felt like it in a lot of ways, especially like because I'd been there a year and I had President Reigns for a year, and you followed the rules. Like there's no squishiness. There was no like, oh, it's okay if you don't do this. And from a lot of the elders and sisters' point of view coming in, there was a lot of like elders and sisters not following the rules. And that was not my experience at all. Like we were being obedient, and we were obedient because we loved President Reigns and because we didn't want to disappoint him. Like that was like I had built a relationship with President Reigns that I wanted him to trust me, and that's one of the things that he said is that if you're trusted, you're loved. And um you're always going to be loved, but if you're trusted, you're absolutely loved, because then like he can count on you to do anything. If you do and you keep the rules, then he's like, I just love that. Anyway, so
Mhm.
then we got President Frederick. Is it Fredericks?
Frederick.
Frederick. President Frederick and Sister Frederick, and I loved them. They were super sweet, super naive. Like they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. They didn't ask to be mission presidents. They were just going on a regular mission. And then the mission president that had been called got sick. And so President Frederick ended up being our president. And I'm sure that at first he was like, is this really what God wants? Or am I just filling in? Right. And but the personality and the dynamics of the mission, it changed. But the elders and sisters that were coming into the mission were different. Like they were
Mhm.
different than our generation that came in. And not a bad different, but different. They were really like Sister Hawk. Who was the other one? Oh, I can't remember. Sister Hogg and Sister Garnham. Did they come in at the same time? I can't remember.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I think they did. Anyway, they were very like direct, and I don't know, like the missionaries that were coming in with Sister Frederick and President Frederick were just different personalities. And we saw it as they were coming in with President Breens, and we were like, whoa, you guys are different. And we're training all of these, they felt like kids because we felt old, right? But then, like, as President Frederick came in, like, I had like this light bulb moment where I was like, these are the elders and sisters that are for them. They weren't President Breens, they were President Fredericks. And so yeah, like I really did see a difference in the missionaries that were coming to Scotland, not just like, yeah, it was really interesting to see. And it was interesting to see President Frederick, and because to us, he was like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. He was like, he was so easy. Like he was like, "Oh, you guys got this. You're doing good. You know, you keep doing what you're doing because you were doing good before. So keep doing what you're doing because, yeah, because I need you." And I think he actually said that I need you, older elders and sisters, to just keep going on like you've been going on, keeping the rules, being obedient, listening to the Spirit, well, I get my feet under me and get this figured out. You keep doing it and we're going to make it through. Like, I remember him being like that straightforward. And he was just so sweet. And Sister Frederick was actually more intense than he was in a lot of ways. Like, she was like, "You can't do that. Don't do that. That is a bad idea," you know? And he was like, "Do what the Spirit tells you to do." You're like, "Uh-huh, okay." And you know, and us, we're like, some people in this mission need a little more direction than that, but it's okay. We'll all make it through, right? But yeah. And so, and in perspective, like, I know they had hammer time, and I'm sure it was hard, that like being pushed and being feeling like it was all about numbers. But there was a time in our mission when we had the 10 a day. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was like, you speak to 10 people a day. And if you haven't spoken to 10 people that day, you need to ask for forgiveness. And we were like, oh, okay. I think I was on Shetland when they brought that out. And I was like,
The
okay,
same 10 people a day.
they might be the same 10 people, but we're going to talk to 10 people today. Yeah. So, yeah. And but as hard as that was some days, you just had to forgive yourself. Like, if you did your best and you only talked to 6 people that day for whatever reason, you know, we all have reasons, but like, you just forgive yourself and move on and say, next day, we'll do better. You know, maybe we need to do more GQing or a couple hours of it so we get those 10 people a day. And, but I saw a lot of blessings from that because it did push me to go and I'll probably walk around more in Lerwick, and even contact less actives more, um, and even that uncomfortable. You know, I know that someone talked to you like 3 months ago, but we're gonna do it again because I'm someone new. You know,
Yeah.
and so like we had that time where it was like talk to 10 people a day. If you like, that is the, and I remember President saying, that's the bare minimum. Like, for some of you missionaries, you pass 10 people a day in 1 minute. Like, you can talk to 10 people. And in Edinburgh, Aberdeen, that wouldn't have been hard. Like, you
Mhm.
will see 10 people and you should talk to them. And so, but yeah, we were in Shetland and I was like, we're just going to have to take different roads. So we actually did. We started like, we would, wherever we would leave our flat, we would take a different road and just go a different way so we would meet new people. Um and there were times where I felt like some people felt like that was a numbers, like a numbers game instead of like actually just meeting people, right? And listening to the Spirit. But um yeah, and so let's see, where was I? Um there was Sister Bautista, right? And
Yep.
then, so then I got sent to Dunfermline after that, with Sister Hogg, and we were whitewashing again. That happened a lot on my mission, um, mostly because there wasn't a lot of sisters, right? So, yeah. So I got sent with Sister Hogg, and she is a fireball, and she is way intense, and she got in people's bubbles like no one I had seen before, and I was like, "Whoa." You are. And I think we had done splits with them in Edinburgh before, like, I was serving with her, so I had a kind of an idea of how she liked to do things when she was very first new. And so by the time I got her, I was like, "Oh, maybe she's calmed down a little bit," and she hadn't. She was, like, still, like, going at it. And I was like, "Okay." So, um, yeah, I'm like, "Maybe you should start out with, like, 'I'm Sister Hog,' instead of like, 'This is the church,'" you know? She just jumped right in there, and she was very forward, and I am not a very forward person. I am a, "Hey, I got something to tell you if you're interested," and, unless the spirit is like, "Say that," and there were times where I said that, but most of the time it was, like, very gentle, very, "Let's build a relationship," even if it's in the next 2 minutes, we're building a relationship. We're not telling someone that they have to talk to us, right? And so with Sister Hogg, I loved her. She was great and but so exuberant. And there was one day where she was so frustrated because no one would listen to her. And I was like, Sister Hogg, maybe it's because you want to be listened to and you're not hearing anyone. And she was like, "Oh, how dare you?" And I was like, uh, let's just take the last house that we were at and let's go over what happened there. And I just really broke down as if I was like watching it on camera, what I saw, what I heard, how the person reacted, and then how she reacted, and then the door was slammed. And I was like, "So how do you feel that went?" And she was like, "Just too I don't know. This is me." And I was like, "It is you, and it's a beautiful you, but we gotta harness it. Like, we gotta bring it back just a little so they feel loved. Just let them feel loved and then tell them about the gospel." And she was like, "It's so hard." So she had a breakdown, and we drove to the beach and stared at the ocean while we talked. And we did that a lot on my mission. When things got rough, if it was possible, we would drive to the beach and look at the ocean. And the calming vibes of the ocean would just like, we just had to take a breath and we could talk about things and maybe. And so when I talked to her, I was like, "You are amazing. And God sent you on a mission. He didn't send me like a copy of me. He sent Sister Hogg, and she's got to figure out how to love people into the gospel. And because you can't just force it on them, it's never going to work that way. That is not the way God works. God loves and he guides." And she was like, I was like, "Yes, you can." But yeah, she was just so funny. But okay, so one of my favorite memories of her though is she got this pair of jeans and they were a little bit too tight. And she was like, "Someone said if I put them on and then I get in a hot bath of water, they will move and like do what like change to my body." And I was like, "You go for it, babe." So she filled up the bath with hot water and she got in the hot water with her jeans and was like, I don't know if it worked. I don't know if I ever asked her if it worked, but I took a picture of her when she was in the bath with her jeans on. And she was like, "No, no." And I was like, "Just smile." It
Oh
was
wow.
so funny. Yeah, but we were only together for 6 weeks. And by the time 6 weeks were over, like she was doing a lot better at like moving into things a little bit slower. And I think she was just so stressed about like getting in there and getting people to hear the gospel that she was just like just too much. And I was like, "Just pull it back just a little bit and show love." And she was like, "Okay." And so she worked on that for the three last weeks that we were together. And by the time we were done, like she was still herself and still like so fiery, and like it was just great. And wherever she moved to after that, she had loads of success. I remember hearing about how awesome she was doing and all the people they were teaching. And so like I love Sister Hog. She was a lot of fun to be with. Just intense. Ugh, even talking about it just makes me like, she was just so, and I was like, oh my goodness, you've got to calm down. You're stressing me out. And yeah. So, and then I got with Sister Georgieva and we talked about that and I learned a lot. And it was, I, I don't know if it was a blessing for me to be ready to go home. Like by the time I was going home, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home. Yep. Look, home's looking really good about now. So, Dunfermline was great though. There were so many sweet members, and the Hargreaves were in that ward. And do you remember the Hargreaves? Oh,
I taught Megan before she got baptized, so
oh,
I've spent
really?
a lot of time with Liz and John and their whole family. We did the
Yeah.
coal race in Kelty when I was there as well, and
Oh,
man, it's so
cool.
much fun. I love that family.
Yeah, they were awesome. Like, are you still in contact with them?
Periodically, not I need to reach out to Liz and see how she's doing. She's my
Yeah.
contact more often than not.
Yeah, I need to. I need to too. I think I.
I think Anne Marie actually still lives in Utah.
Oh, really?
Hmm. Last time I was in touch with her was a long time ago, but she was living in Bluffdale at that point in time.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, they were like the kind of family that you could transplant to like Utah or Wyoming and they would have loved it. They were
oh yeah.
just like they had guns and they went hunting and they had hunting dogs and like I remember like going in their house and being like, you guys live in the wrong place. And they would talk about that. They're like, we wish we lived in the States and we wouldn't have to do all this stuff to be able to own our weapons. And yeah, they had to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to have like rifles and stuff that they could go
Mhm.
hunting with. And they were awesome though. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was so
Family.
outspoken. Loved it. Like
Hmm.
if you wanted to know the truth, yes, Liz.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But she always said it with love, and that was
Yep.
the thing that I loved the most about her is there was never a dull moment in that house, but she was
Yep.
always like, "Hey, you should be focused on this," and
Yep.
then she would tell you why and how much she loved you and wanted you to be successful in whatever you're doing. So,
Yeah.
man, I miss Liz. I would love to sit on her couch and just jabber
Yep.
on about.
She gave great hugs.
Oh my gosh, I
Oh,
didn't get those opportunities, but
I know, I know.
man,
I got her hugs. I was like, I need a hug, Liz. She was a hugger. You knew you were hugged, and I was like, I love that. She's good,
yeah.
strong ones. It's like,
Hmm.
and she's about my height, so it was like we were actually like probably looked like we were wrestling each other because I give good strong hugs too. But oh yeah, the Hargreaves are great. Uh,
I've mentioned this a few times, and I'm curious. Did you go to Happy Days Club, tea and
oh yeah,
bingo?
yeah. We went to Happy Days Club. I sang Teddy Bear. Yeah, we were hopping. I made tea and coffee for people, and you dunk it once or twice. Like there was a lady there. She's like, "Okay, you got to do the tea like this. You dunk it and you pull it out. Like you count to 5, and then you pull it out, and that's all." Like she said, "Don't leave my tea bag in there. It's too strong and yucky." And I was like, "Got it." And then there was this sweet lady that she was in a wheelchair and we went out on the balcony with her and to have her smoke. And we were just talking to her and she was having a conversation. She said, "Come out with me and go have my smoke." And we go out there and she's like trying to light it and she's so old that like she's not being able to use the lighter. And I was like, I felt so bad for her that I lit her cigarette for her. And I was like, "Oh my, Happy Days has made me a different person." I
Man.
think my heart just just changed because you couldn't not love those people. And I lit her cigarette for her, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I served her in a way that she couldn't do herself, and I wasn't going to tell her to not smoke. Like that's not the right time or place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was barely even learning about Jesus Christ. Like you don't even like you don't tell her she can't have her cigarette, and you don't sit there and watch her suffer about it either, because that was painful. So yeah, I let it for her.
No, and there were people in Cowdenbeath that just lived for that. I think it was a Wednesday. I want to say it was midweek sometime.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah, it's
lived
Wednesday
for
or
that
Thursday,
for
yeah.
that afternoon, couple hours, just eating
Yep,
biscuits and drinking their beverages,
yep, yep, and their
listening to
bingo card.
bingo and
Bingo.
karaoke.
Yep, bingo and karaoke. And I remember, do you remember Ruby? She had red hair and her own scooter. She was a fireball.
I don't remember.
You don't remember Ruby? Oh,
Oh
I
man,
love her. So when were you in Dunfermline? Was it before me? After?
before. Mhm.
Before? And maybe she was, maybe we got closer before that. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Did I whitewash Dunfermline? I think I whitewashed Dunfermline. Yeah, I did. So I think she was. We were sisters. We were girls, and I think she said something about those boys were nice, but they're not you. And I was like, "You're right, Ruby. They're not me. They're not short with curly hair." And yeah, she was fire. I kept in contact with her and her daughter for quite a while, and then her daughter got married, and I don't know what happened to them. I'm afraid Ruby's passed away. She was old enough that it's quite possible that she's an angel now. But yeah, she would get like 4 cards, and she'd hand me the dauber, and she's like, "Here, you do those cards, Amy, and I'll do these ones." So I was playing bingo. I didn't win anything, but someone else probably did. And yeah, it was fun though. I loved Happy Days. They were great. Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, they were. They were fun. Yeah, and I learned that tea stains don't come off of cups. Like, I was trying to wash the tea stains off the cups, and one lady was just laughing at me. "Oh, sweetie, you're so cute. Those don't come off. You just wash it and you just put it in the drain board."
Oh,
like, "It's not clean." And she's like, "Yes, it is. It's fine."
Oh yeah, that just brought me back more memories of washing dishes. I forgot about that part of the Happy Days Club.
Yep.
Goodness,
Washing dishes.
wonderful.
Dolphin their cards for them. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. Oh, I forgot about that part. Yeah. Yep.
I love it.
And then, so I came in alone, but when I left, Elder Hout and Elder, he's from Italy.
Relio.
Nope, the other one. Dracocartis?
No, he's from England. Elder Manini.
Was it Elder Manini? He was in one
Maybe.
of my. Yeah. So they met their 2 years when I met my 18 months. So there's a picture of us on our last day.
Oh, Elder Jatavio.
Jatavio, that's it. Yeah. So Elder Hout's parents came. So he wasn't getting on a plane and going to the States. Elder Jatavio was going to Italy. So they put me on a plane with Elder Jatavio, and we had a connection in London. And I had taken some Dramamine because I had been getting motion sickness, which I never had before. And so I took some Dramamine, and it was only a half-hour flight. So by the time my Dramamine was kicking in, we were landing. And then my connecting flight to where the States was like, "Where is she? She's here somewhere." And I don't know. I had to get on a bus to go to my terminal. So it was like, took me forever. And I was like, Elder, did you say Jatavio?
Jatavio, yeah.
Jatavio. He gives me a great big hug. He's like, "Oh, goodbye. And he gives me this great big hug and he's like, you go that way. And I was like, okay, I go that way. And I'm like feeling pretty fuzzy. And I'm like, so I go where he tells me to go. And I was like, okay, I think I'm in the right place. And I'm standing in front of these like big sliding doors and um just like waiting. And I'm like, I hope I'm in the right spot. Finally, the doors open. There's a bus there. And I get on the bus and it says it's going to whatever terminal I'm supposed to be going to. I get there and there's a bunch of missionaries and they're like, "Oh, a sister." And I'm like, "I got to get." And then I hear over the intercom, "Would Miss Amy Cooper please get to gate 10 immediately?" And I'm like, "Where's gate 10?" And I look up and I'm at gate 1. And I ran from gate 1 down to gate 10 and I bet it was a good half a mile. It was long. And
Wow.
I get there and I'm sweating. The Dramamine's completely worn off by now, I'm sure. Like I used it all. I ran and I still had on my suit jacket because just you don't have time to take things off. So I was like sweating. I was so hot. I get there and they're like, "Are you Amy Cooper?" I said, "Yes." They're like, "We were about to leave you." And I was like, what would I have done in London airport? I don't have a phone. I don't even know what number to call. I'm like, oh my goodness, that would have been so like, what do I do? Wait for another missionary and be like, I have no idea. Yeah, it would have
Wow.
been fun. But I made it on the flight and got home. But yeah, it was funny. Elder Tavio gave me a great big hug. He's like, I don't even know you. We never served around each other. Doesn't matter. Going home.
The last day of the mission. Give a sister missionary a hug and go home.
Yep. Yep, that's it. Like, check that box. Yeah. But
I love it.
it was fun. I made it home. But yeah, like and one of the things Elder Bear said is like they put you on buses and on trains all the time and they're like, just get off here. It's amazing anyone makes it to where they're supposed to be going.
True.
Like, yeah. And I was traveling alone a lot and I don't remember it at all. Like I hardly ever remember traveling. I got on a bus somewhere and I got here and I got put there when we were on the bus, like with all of the elders and sisters going to Preston. That was weird because it was like just us. Like we had people to talk to. The other times we were just like, go in here, go in there. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, sorry I've kept you so late, guys. And
Good.
I hope whoever's listening to this, you got something done in between, whatever.
Amy, you'll
But,
have to go back and watch your kids photobombing you through the door back there.
oh yeah, so
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I tried to turn it, but then I was like too close to the other side of the desk, and I'm like, yeah, maybe this isn't the best place. But
Oh, it's all good.
they're great. But yeah, they're
Amy,
probably like, "Mom, it's time for bed."
they're probably like, why is mom still awake? She's usually ready for bed and gone by now.
No, not this mom. This mom puts everyone to bed and then goes to bed.
Man,
Yeah.
good mom. Amy,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on again and sharing your amazing memories. Like, I don't know, like, there's no way we could have fit your original conversation and this in one episode. There's no way. But
Yeah.
everything that you brought, honestly, I think it has come from the memories that have continued to roll from other people.
Mhm.
Like you mentioned the car wreck in Edinburgh. I didn't know that Sister Bautista was in the car because I think I mentioned on Blake Farnsworth's episode, I was like, that's the 4 people, and then logically it makes a lot more sense now that it was that situation. So, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, thank you again for coming on. I know for certainty that everyone who will be tagged in a post that was mentioned on this will love hearing from you again. And keep working on those that we haven't talked to yet. I mean, I'm looking specifically at Sister Bautista, Sister Garnham, Sister Hogg, and Allie Malin. We are planning to talk to Jane Lewis in the coming weeks. Still have to get that on our schedule, but I have connected with her. And I don't know if anyone has contact with Sister Georgieva, but I'd love to hear from her at some point too. It'd be really, really unique. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, thank you so much for coming on again. We love you as our sister in Scotland, and we'll say goodnight.
Okay. Love you too, guys. Thanks for doing this. It's been a great opportunity and experience for everyone involved.
No, it's
Thank you.
really been our pleasure. So,
Yep.
all right. Cheerio, Amy.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Good night.